Hey guys, Mike, Dirty Mike's Garage once again. Today we got a SC430 here at the house that we're working on, and this video is going to be a little bit shorter than the last video I did on doing the timing belt and water pump process on a UZ engine. But what I wanted to do on this one is kind of skip ahead a few steps. And I know a lot of people stress about doing the Vvti cam gear seals, and I figured it'd be a good time to show a quick breakdown. Try and keep this video to about 10 minutes or so, um, on how to replace the cam seals on a Vvti UZ engine. So I've already got this thing torn down. It's timing belt and everything's off. The valve covers are off. There's a ton of videos out there on how to do valve cover gaskets on the UZ engines, timing belt engine, obviously the timing belt water pump. There's plenty of videos on that, including mine. Go check it out. And so this is going to be basically starting with everything disassembled. The water pump has already been replaced. The front of the engine is torn down so you can get to the cam gears, and the valve cover gaskets are off as well, so that way you can get to the intake cams, which have to be removed. So we're just going to do a video on how to do the cam seals when you're to this part right here. So let's get into it. So just a little closer shot of everything. So we've got the valve cover gaskets off, or valve covers. This particular vehicle is getting basically all of it. It's getting the valve cover gaskets, tube seals, plugs, timing belt water pump, cam seal, cam seals, crank seal. It's getting everything. So basically a full reseal on most of the engine. And well, I just wanted to go over doing the cam seals on these Vvti engines, and this video can be used on the Lexus, the 430s. It can be used on the 47s and the Tundras, Sequoia, 4Runner, GX470, Land Cruiser. So, but I just wanted to kind of give you an idea of how to do the cam seals if you were going to attempt your water pump and timing belt job, and you wanted to do your cam seals as well. You will have to remove the valve covers. Okay, good time to do the tube seals. Throw some new plugs in it while you're in there. And this is not a video on how to do the valve cover gaskets or the timing belt. This is just how you get these cams out, how you separate the cams, how you replace the seals, and all that good stuff. So that's what we're going to get started on in just a second. You got to take the cam gear comes off, this cam cap on the front comes off, and the intake cam, this guy here, okay, you got your intake and your exhaust. The intake cam has to come out of the engine, and the cam is actually split in two pieces. We're going to get into that, and also, let's see if you can see it in here, but there's also these gears right here. This is an important step that a lot of people miss. I won't say a lot of people. Some people miss, and it can cause a headache of noise. But one of these gears is split into two pieces, and it is under spring-loaded tension, and you have to lock the gear with a bolt, which I'll show you in a little bit, and that keeps the gear from unwinding when you pull the intake out. Intake cam out. And so you basically you get your cam in time. You can just use a time mark on the cam cap there, and you'll lock the gear with the bolt, and then you can pull your cam out, and then that keeps it from releasing that tension, because what's holding the tension is the two gears being meshed together. What'll happen is that if you remove that cam and that gear, it'll just snap like that, and it'll unwind. What happens is that when you put it back together, the engine can be perfectly in time, and it will most likely run perfectly fine. But what will happen is that the cam has the gear has a bunch of slack in it, because it's no longer under tension, and it sits there and does this while you're running, and it vibrates or rocks back and forth, and it makes a bunch of chatter. Some people describe it sounding like a diesel. So if you ever buy a car that has recently been done and it's making all kinds of noise, there's a good chance that somebody didn't lock that. So we'll get into that. All right, so we're about to get started. One thing to note before we start tearing this thing apart, and I'm gonna talk through it as I'm taking it apart, but just get your timing mark where it needs to be. Also, you'll see this bolt right here. This is how you lock this exhaust gear in place. This is actually a valve cover bolt. This is something that I like to do. The bolt is the right size, and also I won't forget it. Even if it gets all the way to me putting the valve cover on, and I'm like, crap, where's this extra bolt? Then I'm like, okay, I know where it's at. I've seen and I've done it before. Left the bolt in here, and it is not good. So make sure you take that bolt out when you're done. Anyway, so that I'm using a valve cover bolt temporarily to lock that in place. I also mark the gears, and it is a good idea. There's some dimples on there for the timing marks. They have to go back in the same spot. But what I like to do is before you take this apart, take a picture in about this angle right here so you can see the orientation of the cams, and then take a picture of the back side of the gears with your marks so that way you know where they go, and mark it as well if you want with a paint pen or a Sharpie or something like that. So just some good things to do so you don't get yourself mixed up when you go back together. But we're going to go ahead and start taking this thing apart. Rough order of things. This outer shell, the actual gear drive assembly, this is going to come off with these 410s, and take that off. Then we'll get this cam cap off, and then we'll go ahead and start looking at getting the cam caps off the rest of the cam off and get this cam out of here. So let's get to it. All right, so we got the old 10 mil. I'm going to take these guys off real quick. I like to find something that sits pretty snugly on top of the engine there to use, so you can put parts on just like so. This is just an example. I'm going to set these on my workbench, but I wanted to show you it's good to have something on top of the engine that you could set parts on. Keep in mind that you don't want to drop anything inside the head there. You drop something inside the head and it's liable to go down even further than just where you see. So we're going to go ahead and start removing these bolts out of the cam cap here. Come on. I forgot we got to move this valve here. Take this guy out. All right. Take that out. So that right here. All right. I'm going to get my little extension. It's nice having power tools, that's for sure. Let me get this guy down here. All right, all of our bolts are loose. I'm going to take them and set them up here on top. A magnetic tray is really nice too. I have one at the shop. I don't have one here at home. I need to get an extra one. All right, so we should be good there. I think the only thing holding it together right now is just the fibbage. So we're going to get a little mallet. All right, just pulled these bolts out and made it a little easier to get this off. They were just hanging up in the holes in there. So we're just going to keep tapping her. There she goes. All right, there's your cam cap. Okay, that's the forward cam cap. We're going to set this on the table. And now you can get a little bit better look at the seal. So the seal's right here. This is what you got to replace. And the reason you got to pull the cam off is because the seal goes over the cam this way, and the cam actually separates right here. There's some bolts on the back of this gear drive right here, and that will separate the cam. So you'll have the snout of the cam right here that will unbolt, and then the seal comes off that way. Kind of a irritating design, but these Vvti cam seals don't normally leak all that often, so it is what it is. But we're going to keep trucking. We're going to go ahead and get this lower cover off real quick, and then we'll start undoing the cam caps going across, and then pull the cam out. All right. Something to note: we could look up the manual when we will when we go back together with it. But you want to pull the cam out, pull these bolts apart as evenly as possible to keep the pressure on the cam even. These cams are hollow and they can crack. So what we're going to do is, as we pull these off, first of all, make sure they stay in the same orientation and also the same location as you pull them off. So you get your bolts loose, wiggle them back and forth, they'll come off like that. This one's going to go on the front, and we'll put it up here. And then I'm going to work on the middle two, but these two I'm going to take loose a little bit at a time. And also this one, unfortunately, this one's got an oil passage on here that will have to come off on this cam cap over here as well. So we're gonna, all right, as you can see, the cam is now loose. It no longer has any pressure on it. So now take this cam cap off, put it right here, and then this one down here. I'm not going to take this cap off down here, but I got to get this oil line off. So what I'm going to do is just pull the bolts out like this. I'm going to set it down just like so. I'm going to pull this cap off like that, and bam, that's that. And then now, you grab your cam, you can kind of wiggle it, and it'll come out just like that. Okay, and I'm going to put this over on the table. All right, so here we are. The intake cam is out. You can see the exhaust cam is locked, and you can actually see the cam gear there is split into two pieces. One side of it is spring loaded, and it keeps tension on it. And I could be wrong. I believe the reason this is designed like this is so that way these cams, there's never really any backlash to them. So even as they wear, that cam will continue to hold tension on the other cam. And when the two gears mesh together, there's always tension, and they're always touching. So that way you don't get that rattling noise in between the gears, as if there's play in between them. So this being spring loaded, it doesn't change really the timing of it if it releases tension, but if that spring tension is not there, it will allow the gear to do this against the other gear as it's running. And you got to visualize that. That's at a real fast, high pace or high speed. So it's just a rattling back and forth like that. But this engine inside is pretty clean. Take note at the fibbage right here and the fibbage bead that's there. And there's a little groove there, and there's some down here. It's very important to not put too much fibbage, because you can see this is an oil passage right here, and if you squeeze too much fibbage on here and it gets into these oil galleys, it can cause some serious issues. You know, even if it gets into the valve cover area and it gets down, could clog up an oil pump and all kinds of stuff. So just something to note. But we got the cam out, and what we're going to do next is, you can see these bolts right here. What we're going to do is, there's 4 of these bolts. When I grab the socket, I'll let you guys know what size it is. But we're going to basically take these 4 bolts out. We're going to separate the cam gear, or the cam, and we're going to take this seal. After we separate it, this side will come off. We'll be able to take that cam seal off, put our new one on, and we also have an O-ring, a rebuild O-ring for the Vvti gear, and a new washer for up here, a seal. So we're going to do that as well. So let's get to that. All right, so you use a wrench right here on this part of the cam, and then take your Allen socket or Allen wrench, if that's what you got. Okay, and you'll take those 4 bolts out right there. Once you do that, take the cap off the end here. There's another Allen socket in there. Let me get the socket for that. All right, once you get this bolt out, then it'll separate like so. This gear it is keyed. Okay, you can't mess that up. It is keyed, so it only goes on one way, and then your seal comes off like that. So there's your seal. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and rebuild this cam gear while we got it apart. All right, so we got this guy here. We need to separate this so we can replace the O-ring in here. I went ahead and marked this in a few different spots, so when I pull this apart and I put it back together, it'll be lined up exactly where it is. And we're going to work on that now. She's really stuck together there. Alright. Now you can see we got this open. Let that drain a little bit. This is the O-ring that we're going to replace right here. Alright, so what we're going to do now, give this little stretch, not much, just a little bit, so it sits in here and doesn't want to pop back out. Okay, that's all you need. Put this spring back in here. Alright, I got this wiped off, cleaned off. The old O-ring is off here. Okay, and we got our pin right here, and we got our marks, just like this. And push it on down. Line your marks up, make sure they're perfect where they were, and then you're going to put your bolts back in. Alright, so we got that new O-ring in here, put our bolts back on. Alright, we got the seal off here, got that cleaned up. What we're going to do next is we got our OEM cam seal. There's a part number right there. Alright, we're going to go ahead and put this cam seal on the cam, and then we'll start reassembling the cam itself. Put a little bit of oil right on the inside here just to make sure it slides over. This goes on with the flat side facing towards the front of the engine. Okay, it's going to go on just like so. All right, and it's going to just kind of sit there for now. It's because it's not sitting on anything, so it's just going to sit right there. All right, and then We got our gear that's going to go back on. And remember, it's splined. Okay, so that can only go on one way. So it's going to go on like so. Just like that, okay. We can bolt that on now. We can go ahead and do that real quick. And I think I might have misspoke too earlier. This right here doesn't separate the two halves of the cam. This just pulls the gear off. So I think I kind of boogered that up. But nonetheless, when you pull the cam out of the car, the gear has to come off, and then the bolt that goes through the front, this guy, that goes through the front and locks this section to that section right there. So okay, tighten these down. All right. Now the front of the cam is also keyed. Okay. So this will go in one way only. Just like so. It'll lock it in there. There it is. Once you get it lined up, it'll drop in there just like that. You want that to sit flush on there like that. All right, so now that we've got that on there like that, we're going to put this bolt back in the front. Okay. All right. So the cam is back together, and the only thing left to do is put a new seal on the front, on the bolt. So we're going to do that now. All right, so we got the cover bolt here. Okay, clean it off, make sure it's nice and clean. Put our new seal on there gently. Thread that in. All right, now this doesn't have to be, you don't have to like hit this like really hard. It just needs a little bit. It's just a little rubber O-ring. That's good right there. Doesn't take a whole lot, okay? All right. Now the cam itself is done. This is ready to go back in, but we have some prep work to do before that goes back in. We have to clean up the cam cap, clean out these little valleys here where the fibbage goes. I like to clean off the top real good, and we need to clean up the top of the head too to make sure it's ready for fibbage as well. So that's what we'll do next. All right, as I was getting things cleaned up, I got the cam cap all cleaned up and ready to go back on, and I started cleaning this up, and then I forgot, I didn't realize I needed to show you guys this here. So this is kind of similar to the half moons on the back of the head there that you reseal when you do the valve cover gaskets. Anyway, this guy here, you got to pull this out. It comes out just like this, okay, and it has fibbage that goes all the way around it. And so you clean this up, you know, get all this old dried up fibbage on here, clean this up with some brake clean. You'll put a bead of fibbage in here or on the bottom side of here, and you'll squish it back in like that, okay? And then you'll do your fibbage on the top and put it on. And I'll go over that too here in just a little bit. All right, next step. We got everything's cleaned off on the front. We got this little cam cap cover that's going to go in here with fibbage. We got that cleaned off, and we're ready to slide the cam in and start bolting it down. There is a torque sequence for that that you can find in the repair manual, but in general, when you're just doing the seal, the torque sequence online shows you basically doing the cam for the intake and the exhaust together in a whole sequence. We're going to be doing just the intake cam. So what we're going to do is we're going to basically just tighten it down evenly as much as possible across the whole cam. You want it to go down nice and even. And then the torque specs, I'll have those listed in the details on the video, but we'll go through and then torque all the bolts to the proper spec as well. All right, guys, got our cam. I'm going to bring it in, and we got our marks. We got to line it up. First, we're going to just get it in here and set her down. All right, and then I need to get a light so I can see. But basically what we'll do is I'm going to get a light from this side so I can see my marks. But what I'm going to do is basically line up the marks so that way when it roll, like rolling in like this, and what we'll do is once I know that the gears are lined up, we'll put our caps on and we'll slowly tighten the cam down evenly. You want this cam to tighten down as evenly and as flat as possible. This cam tube is hollow, and if it starts to twist like this and you tighten down one side and it binds, the cam will 100% crack or snap in half. I've seen it before, so don't think it won't happen. All right, so got my light and my cam gears look good. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna kind of wiggle it, kind of let it kind of slide down a little bit like that. Make sure it's as close to being lined up as possible. And we're gonna slide these guys on. Remember to put these back on in the same orientation, same position as well. So not just the same orientation as far as like the cam cap going front to back, but also on the same lobe as well. This one's going to go on the rear. All right, guys. So I just went through, tightened all these down evenly. I'm going to go back through and torque them after get the front cam cap on. What we're going to do now is we're going to apply fibbage to the cam cap and get it ready to go on. I'm going to try and put a picture of the repair manual, the service manual, but you are only supposed to apply fibbage on this part right here, on this outer ridge, this one right here, and then this one right here. It says it's a 1.5 millimeter thick bead. So basically the thickness of that ridge right there, a nice smooth bead across there and across there. You do not want to put, if you look, you can actually see, I think you can see it in the camera too, but if you look, these little bit larger ridges are a little bit of a different color. They're kind of a golden brown color. Well, that's because oil flows through there. So if you put fibbage, if you're not paying attention, you put fibbage on all these, you're going to block oil passages, and that will not be good. So you don't want that. So what we're going to do next is we're going to apply some beads of fibbage, and then this bad girl is she's going to go on here just like so. Okay, it's going to go on there like that. Okay, so that's what we're going to do next. Let's rewind just a little bit here. This is going to be next, but this had to pull this back out because I slid it in the wrong direction. So I went back and looked, and of course had it facing the wrong direction. Make sure that's seated all the way down. And now we can go ahead and apply fibbage to the bottom side of our cam cap and slide it on there. All right, so I got fibbage applied to the top of the cam cap, and I put a little bit right there on top of the the half moon there. We're going to take this, slide it down in here into place. Drop it on there just like so. All right, it's on. Make sure that seal is pushed in there. And then we can go ahead and start putting our bolts in. Actually, I have new seals for this, so we have to take, these are little seals on here, so I'm going to get some new ones and put those on there. I'll include the part numbers too, as far as the cam seals. These guys right here, I have the OEM ones. We're going to put those on there. I'll put those in the details, and I'll also put a link to where the Vvti gear O-ring and bolt seal is. These are the OEM seals, or if you want to call it I don't know, it's kind of a rubber gasket, I guess, but it is a seal. It replaces that guy right there. So that's what you want right there if you're going to do this. There is 1, 2, 3, 4 for each of these cam caps. All right, so got everything torqued down. I didn't record it, but you got all of these 4 right here, these 4, and all of these guys are 12 foot-pounds. This outer one and this outer one right here are 66 inch-pounds. So just so you know, do not tighten these down to 12 foot-pounds. These right here, these 4 are 12 foot-pounds, and then all the cam caps right there are 12. And then the 2 outer ones on the front cam cap are 66 inch-pounds. But you can see it's in. The seal is in. Got a little bit of fibbage that squeezed out, but it was a pretty nice bead. I made a little mess right here. I threw this guy in there upside down on accident and had to flip it around, so got a little fibbage, a little extra fibbage on there, but it's not in anywhere near the oil passage or anything, so it should be fine. But you can see it's got a nice little squish there. Nice little squish up here, and that looks pretty good. So now we're going to put the cover that goes down here. We're going to put that back on, and then the outer gear, and then we got to slide this guy back in, and that will conclude swapping out the VVTi seals for the UZ engine. All right, guys, that wraps that up. Got the actual gear drive on. Got the solenoid back in there. Got the cover bolted back on, and also I rotated it back over, put it at top dead center, and everything is good to go. Ready for the valve cover to go back on, and then start on the other side. So anyway, thank you for watching. Hopefully this helped somebody that needed maybe a little bit more detail of just this part of the job. You know, and if you have any questions, reach out. I'm always open to feedback. And I'd like to try and keep doing these videos, so I really appreciate you guys watching, and hopefully I'm able to help somebody along the way. That's the goal. Thank you.